Hey, good job. Boy, we have an exciting background too.
Mm-hmm. Always good to have an exciting background.
Yes. Well, I suppose you could show the darkened sanctuary.
That makes the eternal flame stick out a little bit more.
Yeah, that does.
Or either that, or I'm wearing an ear clip. I can't remember. But thank you for joining us today.
Good wording.
We are in the 6th Sunday of Easter as we continue to ponder what it means to be a resurrection people and what Jesus says to us about being a resurrection people.
Yeah. Shall we get started?
Sure.
All right. Well, let's pray. Oh God, you have prepared for those who love you joys beyond understanding. Pour into our hearts such love for you that, loving you above all things, we may obtain your promises, which exceed all we can desire. Through Jesus Christ, your Son and our Lord, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever.
Amen.
Our gospel lesson is from St. John in the 15th chapter, verses 9 through 17. And a little explanation. On the night of his arrest, Jesus delivers a final testimony to his disciples to help them in the days ahead. Here he repeats the most important of all of his commands, that they love one another. Jesus said, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you. And I appointed you to go and bear fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask him in my name. I am giving you these commands so that you may love one another." The gospel of the Lord.
Praise
Praise to you, O Christ.
Well, we continue off where we left last week, where Jesus is talking about the vine and the branches in John 15. And this is the next part of that passage. Jesus knows something of love. In fact, Jesus embodies God's love, extending love to his disciples and others. In Christ, each of us has the possibility of experiencing a perfect kind of love, unmatched on this earth. Jesus invites his followers to abide in his love. What does it mean to abide in the love of Jesus? And how exactly does one abide in the love of Jesus? So what does it mean to abide in the love of Jesus?
Well, abiding is not just hanging out with, but, being fully present with, living with, kind of an enmeshed life.
Dwelling with. So being part of, being included is, make it a part of who you are. As I'm driving in, I see a bunch of the farmers are out still planting and cultivating. They've made the land part of who they are. Mm-hmm. In a similar way, we abide in the love of Jesus when it becomes part of who we are. So how exactly does one abide in the love of Jesus?
We can try, but I guess we can't do it like he does. We're not perfect, so we just do the best we can.
We try to live up to his expectations.
Yeah, we know we're not going to be perfect. We're not going
to be like him.
We're not going to be like him. No.
Yeah.
Nobody is.
No.
Hey, one of my grandkids asked me about if he ever sinned, you know, there. And I said, no, he's never has. He never did. Am I right? Isn't that what it, yeah.
He who is without sin.
Yeah, he was without sin.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad your grandkids were asking you about it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
That was little Ellie.
Was it?
Yeah.
Did he ask if grandma was without sin?
No, nobody else is. I don't, yeah.
No.
No.
But I think we also abide in the love of Jesus when we abide with our brothers and sisters in Christ, when we abide in His Word.
I just always keep coming back to prayer, because boy, are we just really trying to be fully with God in those moments. Jesus gives a fundamental tip on the practice of abiding. Jesus directly links abiding in His love to the keeping of His commandments. Thus, the commandments are not simply laws to establish boundaries in behavior, but serve to shape and direct a person in relating to God and one's neighbor. Jesus reminds followers of the joy in following the commandments and sharing love. There is a depth of joy found in abiding in Christ. Jesus describes this joy as complete. In your opinion, how do the commandments teach us to love? The commandments and love.
Well, it's mentioned in the commandments. Love your neighbor as yourselves, and you should love God above all things.
To love our neighbor and love God. I mean, that's how we see the commandments broken up. Is the first 3 commandments for Lutherans is about how to focus our love of God. You know, not to put others before God, not to use His name in vain, and to remember the Sabbath, to spend time with Him. And then the rest of the 7, or the 7 rest of the 10 are about how do we live with our neighbors. I mean, you know, we aren't supposed to try to kill our neighbors, or steal from them, or say bad things about them, or try to finagle things away from them. You know, it's the bare minimum you have to do to show your love for neighbor.
It's about behavior.
It is an attitude, at least when you get into Luther's explanations, you know. But not only are we not to not tell lies about Him, but actually try to speak well of Him and try to look at Him in the most kindly way, giving Him the most opportunity that you can. And what makes joy complete? He says that, to make your joy complete. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. I think part of it is we can't have complete joy until we know God's love and until that love is expressed out from us. I mean, that's what this whole thing is really been about. Receiving that love and then expressing that love. And how can we be complete in our joy? If there is any of that, any hatred or boundaries or anything that is getting in the way of that flow of love. And, you know, those boundaries and those things, I mean, it's sin that disrupts that. And so we need Jesus's forgiveness. We need that redemption so that way is made clear between us and God and us and others. And I think also the recognition that our joy is not fully complete here. This is a not yet, but will be. We have a foretaste of the feast to come, right? When we're doing our best in interacting with others and we have those positive interactions and experiences, it's a foretaste of the joy that is to come. I
think part of it too is a state of being. how you live, make that love of others part of who you are. I mean, that's a struggle, is to make, to be able to love everybody that you meet, no matter what kind of mood you're in or who they are. And that your joy becomes complete when that becomes your way of life.
Mm-hmm. I finally got around to watching A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the movie about Fred Rogers. And in many ways, that movie is just as much about the journalist who's writing about him, actually more so about him than it was about Mr. Rogers. But that's one thing that just strikes you throughout the whole movie. He's always looking for the good in others, and he's always looking to what are their needs, where are they coming from, to the point of frustrating everybody else around him. Because we gotta get stuff done. But it just, in every interaction, you just saw that gentle care, even with a really difficult and growly and negative journalist who shows up because he has to interview him. But no, it just really struck me as I watched that movie yesterday. Oh, that we can be so open and gentle.
Very
with others.
unusual man.
Yeah.
That he was very unusual.
Yeah. I think he really tried to embody what we're commanded to do.
Okay, well, as Jesus continues, he makes it very simple. He condenses the commandments to one. Love one another as I have loved you. At least it starts simple, but then Jesus sets the standard high. He adds, love as I love you. These are words spoken by someone who's going to be crucified and gives up his life for the sake of love. Describe someone who loves as Jesus loved.
Well, we kind of were talking about that.
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers, yeah.
Good example.
Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa, yeah.
Well, I think I can think of people in my own life who have kind of risen above, those moments in their life when they've really kind of risen above and responded in a way that was just so kind and so needed. And because I think most of us aren't going to quite make it to Mother Teresa territory, but those moments are possible.
Part of it is probably a childlike memory, but I think about my grandparents. Of course, you're only with them for a short enough time. They are able to show you all the good parts of their lives.
Yeah, they get to spoil you and then send you back.
But it gives you a glimpse of that unconditional love. The love between a grandparent and a grandchild usually is.
By the time you become a grandparent, you usually have time for.
That's true.
You're able to have the patience.
Yeah.
And you've also realized the world isn't going to end.
Yeah.
One more candy bar is not going to destroy you. But that type of unconditional love, if we could reach that for everybody all the time.
It would be amazing. Our world would be a whole lot better place. By leaps and bounds better place. Jesus reminds his disciples of the sacrificial love of laying down one's life for the sake of another. The love of Jesus is not self-centered, nor does his love seek gain. Can a child have such love? And how so? And then, why don't all adults grow into this mature, sacrificial kind of love? I've seen many examples of children just really having that love that they're thinking about the other person. I've also seen children be very self-centered, but I think they're more open to that kind of
They're not jaded.
self-giving.
They haven't seen things.
Yeah.
The world is innocent to a point.
Yeah, they're
But
still
they
very.
expect if I put my arms out to you, you're gonna put your arms out to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. They still expect good in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you see that when, a child's willing to share toys. We see this with children who have decided that their birthday presents are going to be gifts to others.
Yeah.
We see that children can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't all adults grow into this mature, sacrificial kind of love?
You get hurt enough, You have enough bad experiences. You know what it means to be taken advantage of.
And you remember it all.
Yeah, all the bad does not go away.
No.
I think, we've also become enculturated. I mean, culture tells us you want to get what you can get.
Yeah.
If you're, you turn on the TV, it's, you need this. You should have this.
TV, yeah.
And kids learn early on the competitiveness is, I have to win.
Oh.
And it's a hard thing to overcome.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I think I think kids have a sense of being jaded early and earlier because everything is trying an angle at you, Everything is trying to sell you something. There's no, any product, any media that they consume, everything you have to take with a grain of salt. And how sad is that?
I still remember I'd go through a leadership course when I at work, and they had us play a game, and they started off with the game as the goal was they divided us into teams of 4, and the goal was to see who could be the best person in that team of 4. Then the next part of the game was to see which team of 4 could get the most points in their team. And realizing how hard it was for all the other teams to realize that the only way you could get more points is if you shared them amongst your team. So if one person was winning every portion of the game, you get less points than as if you were sharing the points around. It's so hard to realize that we are all in this together.
Yeah.
Instead of just me. Again, my 3 favorite people, my best team, me, myself, and I. It's hard to get over that.
Well, it's hard to be able to trust. Can I rely on this person? Can I?
And we also get into a mentality where we only have so much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have something, it means I can't have it. Rather than thinking we can both have part of it.
Adults aren't that great at sharing either.
Don't tell the kids that.
Yeah, not just a childhood thing. So.
Okay. Well, after all this, Jesus changes the way he refers to his followers. No longer are his disciples to be considered servants, but our friends. The status of friend means more than being Jesus' pals and buddies. Rather, it suggests an intimate relationship of knowing one another. Jesus and the disciples are friends in that they share certain values and common experiences. So what does it mean to have Jesus as our friend? And how does it feel to be chosen to be a friend, especially a friend of Jesus? So what does it mean to have Jesus as a friend?
Think of that hymn, what a friend we have in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Well, someone you can rely on in a time of trouble.
Yeah, a very dependable and reliable friend, and no matter what.
It's also a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, friendship comes with expectations.
Yeah.
But I think it also changes, the way we see ourselves in relationship with Jesus is so often the pictures you see is God way up high and almighty, and us down here like ants. You know, but what does it mean when Jesus says we are his friends?
Yeah.
You know, he himself has sought to break down the barrier of separation. You know, that we can dwell. It's not living with, but it's being with Jesus as somebody who can speak with Jesus. I think.
Yeah, somebody that we can be honest with, we can fully open ourselves to. We don't have to reserve anything back. But what were you going to say?
I was going to say, you know, when you can complain to a friend and know the friend is going to usually sit there and take it and listen to it, maybe not get excited about it, you know, but I think about, you know, one of the things I'm going to talk about tonight at confirmation is the Psalms. In Psalm 22 is, my God, why have you forsaken me? And the idea that we can say that to God and know that God isn't going to just say, well, if you aren't going to be nice to me, I'm done with you. You know, it's more of a relationship of wanting to be in the relationship than just a power one.
And how does it feel to be chosen to be a friend of Jesus? Well, I think friendship is a gift. It's a real gift, and it can be a true blessing. And so grateful. For sure.
It's more than just having him accept your friend request on Facebook.
Oh.
You know, but it is a special connection. Think about the connection we make in baptism, where the Spirit comes upon us. And
Well, and too, as a friend, I mean, Jesus is offering us everything. He's not holding anything back. That's a kind of friendship that's really, I mean, it's the fullest sense of it. And like our human experience of it. This privilege of being called friend by Jesus comes with a certain responsibility and expectation. Jesus expects his disciples to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. God's love has a way of doing that, bearing fruit. The disciples are encouraged to dream big about sharing God's love made known in Jesus. So in what ways did the disciples bear fruit? How were they fruity?
They spread the word.
They did. Yeah. Even under threat, you know, even knowing that bad things could happen.
And did
Or
terrible
did.
things.
And I mean, they went all over the place. They went to places they couldn't even have imagined.
yeah, I think the story we have in our first lesson is from Acts 10, where Peter is speaking to Cornelius' family, the Gentile family, and about the story of Jesus and about God, and they asked to be baptized. You'd never think you'd be in a soldier who's occupying your country's house, offering to share this story with them.
Well, and we have stories about them healing and exorcising demons and showing compassion and just I think they seek to fully embrace that life. You know, there's nothing being held back. It's amazing.
Except for Peter still.
Wow. Peter's still Peter. He's still impetuous and emotional and spontaneous.
He still occasionally questions about Gentiles and
Yeah.
Jews becoming Christians together.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that we get to see the struggle. I mean, because this is a big change. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
And to see that it wasn't just like, oh yeah, that's the right thing, let's go do it. No, there was a lot of agonizing and a lot of prayer and a lot of conversation. And in the end, it was their experiences of grace being shared that allowed them to say, no, this is for all nations. This is for everybody.
Yeah.
Should we move on to the back page, the second part, word among us?
Yeah. Well, abide is an ancient word not often used in daily conversations. Yet in John 15, 9 through 17, we are invited to abide in Jesus Christ. Many times we associate the word for staying close and connected with. Take a few moments to explore the definitions of abide. So abide, to wait for. The season of Advent is the traditional time to ponder waiting for the coming of Christ. The first definition listed in Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary is to wait for. That makes sense. Jesus is not physically with us. Thus, we wait for his coming again. Like anyone who yearns and longs to be fully reunited with a loved one, we too can anticipate a future connection with Christ that comes at the end of time. So the questions are, how do you wait for Christ? And to explain the connection between waiting and abiding in Jesus. And what does loving have to do with abiding in Jesus? So how do you wait for Christ?
I think when we listen to other parts of Scripture and we pray things like thy will be done, and thy kingdom come, thy will be done, we live as if he is fully here. You know, we live into that future. We don't wait for the second coming and to live with that kind of love and attitude and all those sorts of things. I think there's a couple of books we have about Christian martyrs, and they're called Jesus freaks. Mm-hmm. You know, that anyone who is so fully committed, who just, you know, they're not unapologetic about it. You know, that they're freaks, that they're weird, there's something wrong with them. But that in God's sense, there's something very, very right with them.
So in the connection between waiting and abiding in Jesus is when we're already in the relationship with Jesus, whether he's, you know, physically present with us or not. You know, we still wait and are part of that relationship.
When I think about when we were young, I just turned 50, so I'm feeling my age. But and we were dating, and you left for officer basic course, and we were separated for 6 months, and it was awful. It was so hard. But even though we were separated by a lot of miles, we were still living, you know, as if we were still in the same room, and we were still connected. We still had that same relationship, you know, and so we were on the phone a lot. And he had disposable income, so I got lots of flowers. Funny how that ended after he didn't work next to a flower shop.
That's how that works.
But, you know, I mean, we knew we would be together eventually. And the day he got back, he proposed to me, so very romantic, sir.
Nice.
Yes, very nice. But I think of it in those kinds of terms. You know, the relationship wasn't over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It just, we connected and communicated in the ways that we could. And looked forward to it being together.
I suppose in similar ways, we're going to kick Sophia out of the house in a couple months. She's
That's
still going to be our
traumatic.
daughter.
It's
What?
traumatic.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. I remember,
I'm gonna have a hard time.
oh, yeah. Yeah. Remember moving Jim out to Brookings. My Lord, you'd think he was at the North Pole. It was just.
I cried when she went to kindergarten, and I just can't imagine how I'm gonna be taking her to school and then driving away.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. I'm gonna be a mess. Mm.
That first one, it doesn't get easier either.
No. I don't know, when I left for college, it seemed like my parents were pretty relieved about the whole thing. Okay, everybody's out.
I walked down the alley, so the folks really didn't have to say goodbye.
Yeah.
My first year, so.
Yeah. You know, as by the time Sadie goes, it may all be online learning.
Oh, I hope not. There's something to be said for being in the same room and talking to each other.
There's a lot to be said for the experiences of
Yep.
living on your own for the first time.
Well, you know, and I think it's formative. It really, really is. You've got to learn who you are and how you function. And when we say, okay, now you're an illegal adult, well, what does that mean? It's not just that we refuse to do your laundry anymore.
Well, that leads into number 3. What does loving have to do with abiding in Jesus? It's about, you know.
Well, love is about Jesus. I mean, you know.
But it's like we were talking about with going to college. It's your chance to learn, to be on your own, to do things even though you're not completely connected with your parents anymore. You're still connected through that history of, 18 some years of being said, don't do this, do this. And now you get to live, to be that person on your own.
And they're still there for you.
Yeah.
If you're lucky. They're still there for you.
Yeah, parents are still watching and helping
Yep.
them.
We're not so directly involved anymore, but our care and concern is still constant.
I still remember stories. Your brother Steve is a professor, about parents calling up and saying, how's my child's doing? How's his grades?
And saying, legally, I can't release that information to you.
That's right.
You'll have to talk
Some
to
parents
your
try to be
child.
more connected than others,
Yeah.
but we still want to be connected and watch out for them. And
Well, that's like I said to my mom, I can't remember what the situation was, but I said, sometimes you just want your mom. And she said, I still feel that way too. And her mom's been gone a long time. There's that loving connection, whether they are physically present or not. There's power in that. There's strength and love. All right. So we had abide to wait for, and now we have abide to remain. There are many things in this life that might tempt a person to remain and endure, but not all are positive and life-giving. A person doesn't necessarily have to choose to abide in something positive. For example, a person might abide and remain in abusive marriage, alcohol, hatred, bitterness, or addictions. What tempts you away from abiding in the love of Christ? I think my own selfishness or seeking my own gratification. It's all about me. Me, myself, I.
I tell you, they're important people.
Mm-hmm.
I think somehow I have a random news feed on my phone. And one of the things that popped up was a pastor who was struggling with her faith. You see all this suffering and you see people dying, and it's hard to wonder why and to be patient in the midst of that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes just the pain of life gets in the way. And it's like what Jesus talking about, the parable of scattering of the seeds. If you don't have a deep enough root, or if sometimes even the root comes up because of some reason, it can be hard to stay and abide in the love of Christ.
For sure.
And I think about, especially now, we see the idea of fear and hatred. We have that fear of what's unknown, and it can come out as hatred or abandonment. And it's hard to see in the world where you see people are just so afraid of their neighbors. that they're unable to love them anymore.
That does seem to be, particularly nationally, but it's internationally, it really does seem to be the primary attitude or experience anymore. Fear and hate.
Though as much as I'm a half glass full type of person, or half empty. I'm a half empty. I'm a
Yeah, he's a
pessimist.
half empty.
I'm half empty. I still think there's lots of love in the world. It's just doesn't catch your attention. It's sort of like you don't notice the furniture in the room until you stub your toe on it. It just there's still love, but it can overwhelm. I mean, we see these stories online or on the news about people who've just gotten stuck with being so afraid or that it turns into hate.
Yep. Just overwhelmed by it.
There are lots of things that can distract us from God, from Christ.
And I think sometimes in the moment we don't recognize that that's what's going on. But hopefully as we seek to stay committed with Christ, then we can see it, we can recognize it and for what it is.
Well, and that's part of the reason we try to gather as community like we are here is you challenge one another. When you see a friend falling away, you say, hey, where are you at? How are you doing? You have somebody to walk with you. I mean, Jesus sent the disciples out 2 by 2. And when Paul went out on his mission trips, he never went alone. It keeps us. So I think, when I worked in the store, I had somebody who we caught stealing, and it started off he stole a 25-cent cable. And he saw he got away with it, so he went up to a $1 cable, and then he went up to a CD, and then a DVD, and computer hard drives and memory, and finally caught him with a full sound system, big sound system. He started small, and then once he realized he could get away with it, it's the same thing happens with us when we fall away from Jesus. It starts small, It can be simple as I'm tired this Sunday,
I'm tired every Sunday.
and that's why we're going to move church to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You
Just
get a
in time
chance
for
to wake
everybody to
up.
fall asleep on us after a nap.
I hear the sermon through osmosis.
Yeah, there you go. If we could do church at like 10. But that's really late for everybody. We're both night owls, so this whole get up in early morning is painful.
Everything before noon is a figment of my imagination.
I think 8:30 is early.
Which made 8 o'clock class on college very interesting.
Oh, and when you had it on the other campus.
Yes.
So you had to ride all, oh man. Not fun. I admire folks who are early morning people. I mean, how lovely to just be bursting and happy, and I just don't get it.
Still, when I was in the Army and then at Best Buy, people were excited to have somebody who was a night owl because then they didn't have to do the overnight shift.
Yeah.
So everybody has their gifts. Okay. Well, another definition of abide: to accept without objective. Trust is part of this definition. We are encouraged to trust the goodness and love of Jesus as he invites us to abide in him. Trust includes accepting his reign and leadership in our life. We trust his wisdom and his love to become the guiding principles in our lives. So explain the connection between trust and abiding in Jesus. And the next question is, how does trust encourage love to bear fruit? So explain the connection between trust and abiding in Jesus.
Well, I think it's pretty tough to abide with anybody if you don't trust them. Because you're making yourself vulnerable and open.
Yep.
And being vulnerable is uncomfortable.
Very much so.
But if you're vulnerable with a friend and they're trustworthy, it can lead to really awesome relationships. Or if you're vulnerable with a friend and they're untrustworthy, it can
It can really just destroy you. And I think there is just a component about trust when we talk about love, you know, because if you're going to express care for somebody, you're putting yourself out there, you know. We talk about the vulnerability, and you don't know what reaction you're going to get, but put yourself out there anyway, and that's hard. Remember one of my former pastors, as I was getting ready to graduate from seminary, decided to give me some advice. And he said, his big thing was, you have to have the hide of a rhinoceros. People are going to hurt you. You're going to put yourself out there and you're going to get hurt. And you're just going to have to let that go. And that's hard. But that's part of love.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the part of loving others. And to not let that hurt or that anger or hatred or whatever to find a seed in you, to find a crevice to grow.
I suppose in a similar way, it's like that for teachers.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta be able to take the critiques, the good with the bad. So how does trust encourage love to bear fruit? I think that's where I pulled up Galatians 5. You know, by contrast, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I mean, love allows you to be all those things. Their trust allows you to be all those things. You know, especially if you don't have to be on your guard, you're able to be more patient, more peaceful,
More generous.
more generous, more gentle.
Well, and again, you know, I just think about, you know, the thought about turning the other cheek, which in many ways is an awful thing to say. But in the sense of God's love, it's not permission for somebody to beat you, you know. But what it is it's saying that your response is going to come out of that trust and not necessarily trusting the other person, but trusting God too. And two, I think, well, you know, nothing can separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus. Not the harm other people inflict on us, not the ways that we've been disappointed, you know, not the ways that people hurt us so terribly. You know, nothing can separate us, and that we can trust in that. That is the rock. Jesus invites his followers to abide in him and his love. That love produces joy and fruit that lasts. Jesus reminds his followers, no one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. What are the first steps of love long before one gives one's life? What are the first steps towards love? I think it's opening up ourselves to know the other and to be known.
Mm-hmm. To be able to make yourself vulnerable with another person is one of the ways. I'm not sure if part of it is also to be comfortable with who you are. And trust that you know who you are.
Which is probably a lifelong journey.
For sure. And we all have stuff. We all have the baggage that we bear that makes it harder. But recognizing that God's sort of love can overcome anything. And trust that God's care, God's love, God's faithfulness will stay true. Even if you mess this up.
Yeah.
The other person might not, end up being real happy with you. Our relationships can be broken, but our relationship with God doesn't have to be broken. And I'm really interested in this next question. What is the difference between fruit and fruit that will last? So not all fruit are the same.
I think it's the consistency. When people see how consistent you are. I mean, you think about, we're talking about Mr. Rogers, and I mean, over all the years he was on TV and all the years he was in public life, he was always consistent. And we knew that, and that gives you an extra trust of what he's doing. And so I think the fruit that lasts, part of it is the consistency. The, do as I do, or great, now I can't remember it. Do as I tell you, not what I
do. As I say, not what I do.
Yep. It needs to be do as I do.
If you talk the talk, then you walk the walk.
I also think it matters too how early you experience the fruit. I mean, as a kid, if you see the fruits of the Spirit, the fruits of love, they consistently throughout your younger life, it makes a really big difference.
Yeah.
When you get into become an adult.
If you have not been able to rely on the love and care of the people who are supposed to be the ones loving and caring as a child, it makes it really hard as an adult. Oh, someone's here. Hello.
Yep.
Wait, somebody showed up. We'll see what's going on. What fruits of love might you bear in the coming week? Fruits of love. The joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, and so forth. What fruits of love might you bear in the coming week? What fruits of love might you bear this coming week?
Patience. It's nothing more fun than running late and jumping behind a cedar. Tractor.
Oh.
I was thinking patience too, but more on the sake of our children.
And there's kindness, when you go through the registers at a store or meet somebody on the street, to show kindness.
Well, and two, the self-control of, you may have a negative history with someone, but to have a sense of self-control so that you're not on the attack, you're not on the defensive, If anything negative is going to come of this interaction, it's coming from them. And you're not going to meet it in that way. Even though you really might want to. It might really just burn.
Yeah.
I'll be asking for peace as we see where life takes our eldest, and not be a complete mess of worry. What?
We just put the tracking device on her phone.
Yeah, that's true. She's never not with it.
Okay.
Well, should we end with prayer?
Yeah.
Christ, hold us tight so we might abide in you, share love, and bear much good fruit.
Amen.
We're invited to dig deeper in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And then the last word, encouragement for the week. Begin each day with your hands folded in prayer, asking Christ to hold you tight.
And then tonight we'll be meeting at English Lutheran to talk about our social statement, freed in Christ, race, ethnicity, and culture. You know, as we see so much in news about race and different cultures conflicting with one another, you know, to think about our social statements are meant to be teaching tools to help us think about these things and to just start thinking about what it means for us. So anybody's invited to join us here at English.
Are we zooming it?
No.
Or not zooming, but
No.
live streaming it?
I have to admit, I am uncomfortable speaking about race from the pulpit or on live streaming because I think it's something we have to be able to dialogue,
Yeah,
be able to do a two-way thing.
that's true.
So,
And if you can't come, but are interested in reading the statement or would like to talk about it, please just let us know. We would be very glad to have that conversation.
and then, see, our Savior's is at 9 o'clock on Sunday in person. St. Olaf is at 8:30, and English will be at 10:30, and also our live streaming will be at 10:30.
Yeah.
So I think otherwise it's a pretty calm week. So Okay.
Yeah, the excitement of Easter, Holy Week of Easter is done, so.
okay, well, God be with you. Thank you for joining us.
Peace be with you.